In the scenario, you're 22 years old. You just got your first salary job with a real benefits package. You sit down for onboarding with HR, and they slide a 401 SAP enrollment form towards you. Your well-meaning manager tells you to start early. Your future self will thank you. You nod, feeling responsible. You allocate 6% of your $45,000 salary that first paycheck hits, and you see the deduction, $103.85. It feels small, almost invisible. You watch your friends take a graduation trip to Southeast Asia, but you stay back. Here you tell yourself, that's not responsible. You get a promotion at 30. You up your contribution to 10%, now making $80 to $5,000. You forego the nicer apartment closer to work because the rent is higher, opting for the longer commute to save more for someday. Your statements come in the mail. Or these days, you get the email notification, and you see the numbers slowly ticking up, 50, 2,000, then 100, and 17,000. Here, it feels like progress, but there's a quiet nagging feeling in your gut, a sense that you're running on a treadmill, watching a clock count down to a freedom that feels perpetually 30 years away. But what if I told you that this entire narrative, the cornerstone of modern financial responsibility, is built on a model designed in the 1800s to solve a corporate problem, not a human? But what if I told you that deferred gratification wasn't invented to liberate you, but to pacify you? But what if I told you that by focusing solely on that future number, you are systematically devaluing and impoverishing the most valuable asset you will ever have, your youth? This isn't just poor financial planning. This is the great retirement lie. My name is Bobby, and I spend way too much time thinking about how our most virtuous financial instincts are weaponized against us. If you're someone who looks at your retirement balance and feels a deep anxiety that it's never going to be enough, no matter how much you save, or if you've ever passed up a life-changing trip, a career risk, or a meaningful experience because it wasn't in the budget for your future self, or if you've ever felt trapped in a job you tolerate because the benefits in the 401p match are too good to leave, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because today, we aren't talking about how to save more for retirement. We are talking about why that entire framework might be rigged. We're talking about taking back the timeline of your one and only life. Here's the thing about retirement planning. The conventional wisdom is a simple, compelling story. Sacrifice now, invest diligently, and you will be rewarded with security and freedom in your final decades. I tell you that the ultimate virtue is delay, that every dollar spent today is a betrayal of your future self. But that advice ignores a fundamental, brutal truth. Time is not just a medium for compound interest. Time is the substance of your life, and you are being advised to mortgage the quality of your most vibrant, energetic years for the promise of peace in your least vibrant ones. This is the core concept we need to unpack, the deferred life plan. Let's go back to the beginning, to 1875 in Pennsylvania. The Industrial Revolution is in full swing, and factories need a stable, permanent workforce. Behavior. But there's a problem. Skilled workers at companies like the Pennsylvania Railroad keep leaving. They head west for the gold rush, or they jump to a competitor for a slightly better wage. This turnover is cripplingly expensive for the railroads. Training new people takes time and money. So, an executive named William Thaw proposes a radical solution. He creates a fund where both the worker and the company contribute a small amount of money. Here's the catch. The worker can't touch it until they reach a specific age, 65, or after decades of continuous service. This wasn't a benevolent gift. This was America's first corporate pension plan, and it was designed as a retention tool, the original golden handcuff. The worker's entire financial future was now tied to one employer. The model spread like wildfire. By 1900, railroads, banks, and government agencies adopted it. Then, in 1935, the Social Security Act institutionalized it nationally, cementing 65 as the official retirement age, a number based on 19th century life expectancy, not 20th century reality. At the post-World War II boom gave us the 401t, which brilliantly shifted the risk and responsibility from the corporation to you, the individual. The narrative was perfected. You are in charge of your own deferred future. And a multi-trillion-dollar financial industry grew to manage those deferred funds, earning fees on your money for decades. The final outcome? A complete cultural and financial paradigm where life is partitioned. Your productive, energetic years are for labor and saving. Your freedom is postponed, quarantined, to a designated, distant phase called retirement. The lesson is stark. The original intent was never liberation, of its labor pacification and retention. This historical accident created what we now blindly accept as virtue, the institutional deferral cycle. Now you might be thinking, okay, Bobby, that's a nice story about railroads in the 1930s, but how does that apply to my actual life in 2025? Well, look around you. This dynamic is everywhere. Let's take a detailed example. Meet Alex. She's 29, earns $85,000 a year in a marketing job, and she's doing everything right. However, she automatically defers 12%. That's $10,200 a year, straight into her 401. She feels responsible, even proud. She rents a modest apartment, cooks at home most nights, and her vacations are long weekends driving to see family. The future self's fund is growing. She's leveraging compound interest, but her present self is quietly starving. She says no to a 3-week sabbatical to hike the Camino de Santiago with a close friend who's moving abroad. The trip would cost $4,000. She passes on a professional certificate course in data analytics that genuinely excites her because it's $2,500 and her company won't pay for it. But he avoids dating apps because dinner and drinks add up. Her life, her growth, her connections are on administrative hold. The cost isn't the $10,200 she saves. It's the $6,500 of life-enriching experiences she forgoes annually and the compound interest on memories, skills, and relationships in her prime 40s. They stay in high-stress, high-paying jobs they've come to despise solely for the benefits and the match. They defer family travel, time with their young kids, and personal health projects, trading irreplaceable family cohesion for a future fantasy of togetherness when the kids are gone and they're just tired. This manifests in 100 small ways. Skipping the weekly $15 coffee with a mentor to save, passing on the $800 home gym setup that would transform your health, not taking the $3,000 trip to visit aging parents because it's a lot for just a visit. This is what we call *youth discounting. It's the systematic, institutional undervaluation of your present time, energy, and vitality in favor of a monetized, distant future. Let's perform a brutal audit of this. Let's call this person Sam. Sam is 30 years old, makes $75,000 a year, and follows the script, defers 10% to retirement, lives on the rest. Behavior Sam starts with a gross income of $75,000. That's the number everyone sees. First, there's the visible deferral, the 401c contribution. This is immediate capital taken from your present life and locked away for decades. You pay fees on it, you cannot use it for life opportunities without severe penalty. That's $75,000 times 10%, $7,500. The running total of what's being diverted from Sam's present life is now $7,500. That's the easy math. We all know that. Now we have to subtract the opportunity tax. This is the compounded value of foregone experiences. Let's be conservative. Let's say just 20% of that deferred money, $1,500, could have been invested in a life experience, a skill, or a side hustle tool that increased Sam's earnings, network, or joy. What's the lifetime loss on that? If we assume a conservative 5% annual return on that life quality investment through better jobs from new skills, better health from less burnout, better ideas from new experiences, the future value of diverting that $1,500 every year for 30 years is $90 to $90. That's nearly $100,000 of life potential gone. The updated total is now $7,500 plus $99, $790, $100, and $7,290. A behavior. But we're not done. Then there's the burnout surcharge. The stress of the grind now, relax later mindset has a real quantifiable cost. It shows up in higher healthcare costs, lost productivity, and coping spending. The convenience food, the impulse buys to feel a little better after a draining week. The research correlates high financial stress with at least $2,000 in extra annual costs. Discount that over 30 years to today's value, and you get $34,000. New total, 107290 plus 34, 10 and $41,290. And it gets worse. Then there's the darkest cost, The psychological carry. When you mentally live for someday, you unconsciously devalue today. You settle for worse relationships, tolerate a toxic work environment, and accept a lower baseline of daily joy. How do you value a discounted life? Studies on life satisfaction suggest a sustained drop in joy is equivalent to a massive annual income loss. Let's take just 5% of that effect. That's $2,000 a year in discounted joy. Over 30 years, in today's dollars, that's another $30,000. So, let's add it up. The behavior, the visible deferral over 30 years, $225,000. The opportunity tax, $99,790. For daily burnout surcharge, 30% $4,000. The psychological carry, 30% $1,000. That's a total lifetime cost of $380.790. That's not a typo. Following the standard advice doesn't just cost Sam his $7,500 annual contribution, it systematically erodes nearly $400,000 of his life's total value, in health, in opportunity, in pure joy. You are not saving $7,500 a year, you are spending $12,959 of your life's total potential every single year to feed a deferred fantasy. Think about that for a second. And we haven't even touched on how fragile this deferred future actually is. According to a 2022 study by the National Institute on Aging, 37% of Americans die with less than $10,000 in liquid assets. Deferred pile often goes unspent or is wiped out by end-of-life care. A 2023 report from the Center for Retirement Research at Boston College found that 50% of retirees are forced to leave the workforce earlier than planned. The plan is a house of cards. And a Gallup poll from 2024 shows that only 32% of workers under 40 believe they will ever receive Social Security benefits. The faith in the entire deferral system is collapsing. This means the system is failing on its own terms. It's not even delivering the secure future it promised. And before you say, "But Bobby, we have to save for the future," I absolutely agree. The question is balance and purpose. 2023 BlackRock study on financial well-being found that people who allocated even 1 to 2% of their income to experiential and educational spending reported 23% higher financial well-being than rigid maximizers, with negligible difference in their net worth at age 65. That's the equivalent of choosing between building a fortress for a future siege while letting the walls of your current castle, your health, your relationships, your mind, crumble from neglect, versus maintaining a strong, vibrant home throughout your entire life. Of history. This is where it gets really interesting. When you defer aggressively and live for tomorrow, you become risk-averse and deeply dependent on your current paycheck. That dependence forces you to tolerate workplace stagnation, stress, and unhappiness because you can't afford a break, and that stagnation makes you less likely to seek a big raise, switch to a more fulfilling career, or build a side income, which makes you feel even more insecure, so you defer even more out of fear. It's a perfect vicious cycle. It's like being on a stationary bike that's wired to power the very casino you're hoping to win big in later. You pedal harder, the lights get brighter, the machines ding, but you never get off the bike to actually go enjoy the casino. You just get more tired watching your credits go up on a screen. And here's what really gets me. The financial services industrial complex relies on this. They profit on you automatically deferring because they earn assets under management fees whether the market goes up or down. They depend on you staying scared and passive because that keeps you from questioning their high fees or moving your money. They literally budget for your mistake of panic selling during a downturn because market volatility is their opportunity to buy low. When you start valuing your present life, when you pull money out for a meaningful experience, when you become a bad customer for them, but you become the great CFO for your own life. The system wants you to focus on your portfolio's daily movements because that hides the truth. Your life is moving even faster and it's a non-renewable resource. This isn't just bad psychology or bad math. This is predatory. This is designed. This is a scam that's been running for 150 years. Now I can hear the objections already. Bobby, so you're telling me to just YOLO and spend everything? That's irresponsible. And look, I get it. That seems like the reckless alternative, but no, I'm telling you to budget for life with the same intensity you budget for retirement. Allocate to your future responsibly, but with equal intentionality, allocate to your present. 5% life experience fund is just as critical as a 10% retirement fund. It's not frivolous spending. It's strategic investment in the person who has to live through those 40 years of work. Behavior you might also be thinking, but compound interest, time in the market, I'll miss out. The most powerful compound interest you can cultivate is compound interest on your skills, your health, and your network. A $2,500 course that leads to a $10,000 raise has a higher ROI than any index fund. A $4,000 trip that gives you a business idea or a lifelong partnership is priceless. You are your own best asset. The problem isn't saving for the future. The problem is mortgaging your present. So what do you actually do with this information? Viewer, how do you escape the trap? Let me give you something practical. Strategy number 1, the dual account mandate. This is a personal law you create for yourself. For every dollar you defer for retirement, you must allocate a percentage to a life capital account. This works because it forces balance. It makes investing in your present growth non-negotiable and visible. Here's how to implement it. First, open a separate high-yield savings account and literally name it Life Capital. Second, set up an auto transfer. If you defer 10% to your 401(d), auto send 2.5% to Life Capital. Third, this money has one ironclad rule. It must be spent within 12 months on a growth or enrichment experience. No rolling it over into next year's savings. Fourth, every quarter review the balance and plan what it will fund. For example, if you make $75,000, your 2.5% is $1,875 a year. This year, that funds a wilderness first aid course and a long weekend visiting a friend across the country. That's health capital and relationship capital, funded. Strategy number 2, the years to experiences ratio. This is a planning tool that inverts the timeline. For every year you are from a traditional retirement age of 65, you commit to one significant, memorable life experience. A behavior. This works because it creates a ticking clock of life to be lived, not just saved for. Here's how. If you're 30, you have 35 years to 65. Target is 35 experiences. Catalog them. Big ones like a month abroad, medium ones like learning to sail, small ones like a hot air balloon ride. Schedule and budget for them now, treating them with the same non-negotiable status as your car payment. You're 40. You have 25 to go. Plan the next 5 right now. Strategy number 3, the income diversification sprint. This is a 90-day focused effort to create one small stream of non-wage income that covers your entire life capital contribution. This works because it attacks the dependency that fuels over-deferral. It uses your present energy to buy present freedom. How? Identify one monetizable skill: consulting, writing, graphic design, tutoring. Or dedicate 5 hours a week for 3 months to build it. Your first revenue goal is simple. Cover your annual life capital allocation. Once your side hustle funds your life experiences, the psychological pressure to defer every spare dollar from your main salary evaporates. Teacher tutors online for 5 hours a month at $85 an hour. That's $5,100 a year. Life capital is covered, and then some. They're by the beginning. But the biggest shift is psychological. You have to start thinking, I am an investor in my continuous unfolding life, instead of I am a saver for my future self. You're not a retirement account balance. You're a collection of lived experiences, mastered skills, deep relationships, and preserved health, with a financial runway that supports it all. Here's what I want you to do this weekend. Calculate your deferral rate. Take your total retirement contributions, divide by your gross income. Now set up that life capital account and auto-transfer 1/3 of that percentage. When you do, you'll discover that funding your present doesn't spark guilt. It sparks a clarity and energy that makes you better at everything, including earning more. I want to leave you with one final thought. Retirement isn't really about age or money. It's about autonomy. It's not a date on a calendar you reach at the end of a long road. It's the progressive accumulation of options and the courage to exercise them, starting now. We thought freedom was a financial number you hit at 65, but the reality is it's a psychological state you cultivate every single day by making choices aligned with your values, not your fears. Our grandparents traded their time for pension security in a world of scarce capital. We've traded our youth for 401 statements in a world of abundant capital but scarce time and attention. The people who actually thrive aren't the ones with the biggest portfolios at 65. They're the ones who integrated meaning, connection, and growth into every single decade. They didn't defer life. They amortized it. You can't postpone living for 40 years and expect to suddenly know how when the paychecks stop. But you can weave threads of freedom, adventure, and learning into the fabric of your daily grind. The most powerful investment you will ever make is in the quality of your days, because those days in aggregate become your life, and no deferred sum of money can ever buy back a life that was merely endured, a behavior. You're not broken for feeling trapped by this. You're human, responding rationally to a system designed to make you feel that exact way. This journey is unfair, and it's hard because you're rewiring a lifetime of conditioning. Sure. But once you understand that every dollar has a time cost as well as a monetary value, you can start making choices that honor both. If this video sparked something in you or opened your eyes, share this with one person who you know is grinding themselves into dust for a someday that may never come. Smash that like button and hit subscribe for more content that challenges how you think about money, time, and freedom. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.